Good afternoon, honourable members. Let's observe a moment for silent prayer or meditation.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. Please be seated. The Secretary will read the order.
Debate on vote number 13, Public Works and Infrastructure Appropriation Bill.
To introduce the bill, I recognise the Honourable the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure.
House Chairperson, Deputy Minister Sihle Zikalala, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee and members of the Portfolio Committee, Honourable Members, Director General of the Department, Mr. Sifiso Mdukane, our Head of Infrastructure SA, Ms. Mametse Masemola, our CFO, Mr. Mandla Sithole, ladies and gentlemen. Today I table Budget Vote 13 of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure for the 2026-27 financial year. The department receives an allocation of 7.8 billion for the year ahead, with the medium-term allocation of 24.6. Of this year's allocation, approximately 6.4 billion is directed towards transfers and subsidies, including support for our entities and conditional grants to provinces and municipalities for EPWP. The PMTE, which remains one of the most important areas of reform in this portfolio, has a projected revenue of 18 billion rand for 26-27. This budget vote is about continuing the work of reforming the department, strengthening delivery, protecting public money, and turning public works and infrastructure into an economic delivery unit of South Africa. Over the past year, we have made progress in unlocking investment, restoring delivery, and confronting corruption. But we have also encountered resistance from those who benefited from the old way of doing things. Today, I want to speak plainly about both progress and resistance. House Chair, through Infrastructure South Africa, we have strengthened the state's ability to prepare credible infrastructure projects and mobilize investment. At the South African Investment Conference, ISA helped unlock a $1 billion investment pledge amounting to approximately 17 billion rand linked to a large-scale bioethanol production facility, which would be the first of its kind in our country. In support of this work, I'm pleased to confirm that the Minister of Finance has finally approved the formalization of Infrastructure South Africa, and that a draft bill will be gazetted for public comment within the next month or two. In Johannesburg, the new 769 million rand deeds office is rising in the inner city. It is the first new high-rise in the CBD in over 20 years, and is set to be completed by October this year, and will save the state millions of rands in rental payments while helping to restore confidence in our city centres. Through the Strategic and Special Delivery Unit, we have also focused on unblocking stalled and long-delayed projects. These are projects that should have been completed years ago, some more than 10, but were allowed to stall because of poor contractor management, weak oversight, and underperformance. This work has supported progress on priority projects, including the handover of the Durban Forensic Science Laboratory to the SAPS in just 12 months, and the appointment of a contractor for the Sarah Bartman Centre of Amendments after a decade of delays. Public Works must play its part in the fight against crime and in completing long delayed projects that matter to communities. We have also begun to stabilise the Independent Development Trust. When I took office, the IDT was largely non-functional and had become associated with corruption, instability, and a loss of confidence amongst government contractors and communities. Under the new board and leadership, it's beginning to emerge as a key driver of social infrastructure delivery. Its order book has grown by 2 billion rand to 6 billion in confirmed project and has tripled its cash on hand each month from near bankruptcy. In the 25-26 financial year, the IDT completed 279 social infrastructure facilities, exceeding its target of 244. That is the IDT that we are rebuilding, an entity focused on delivery, social infrastructure, jobs, contractor development, and proper governance. We have also used public assets for public good. In the last financial year, the department made more than 46 state-owned properties available for shelters for victims of GBV and femicide, as well as skills development centers. We are also proceeding with the disposal of 801 properties that the state no longer needs. Through the Construction Industry Development Board, we are strengthening accountability in the construction sector. In 22 years, only 2 contractors were blacklisted. In the last 22 months, 52 contractors have been removed from the register of contractors for fraudulent activity. Contractors who fail, abandon projects, or defraud the state can no longer expect to return to business as usual. We have also begun the reform of the EPWP, another key delivery promise. Earlier this month, we launched the Working on Infrastructure pilot program in Durban, following 9 EPWP listening tours where close to 4,000 participants and community members spoke about political gatekeeping, manipulated lists, ghost beneficiaries, unfair access, abuse, and sex for jobs. That is not public employment, that is public exploitation. And Working on Infrastructure responds to 2 urgent realities. South Africa has an unemployment crisis, and South Africa has an infrastructure maintenance crisis. The pilot provides longer and more structured work opportunities of between 8 and 10 months linked to skills development, mentorship, workplace experience, and possible pathways into the private sector, as well as digital application processes to remove gatekeeping by councillors. But Chair, we must also speak about the challenges that we face. As these successes matter, so do the challenges. It has also taught us that reform will not happen without resistance. From day one, we know that there has been a deliberate fight back against reform, and nowhere is this resistance more entrenched than in the property management trading entity. When we introduced oversight, those who operated without accountability naturally would resist. When we asked questions about leases, contracts, ghost employees, inflated costs, lifestyle audits, and underused state assets, those who profited from dysfunction would stop at nothing through their various proxies to halt those questions. They will leak and distort information. They will brief people in secret, or so they think. But let me be clear, we know how they work, and we're on to them. We've seen a similar fight back at the IDT, where efforts to act on serious corruption allegations were met with fake call logs, AI voice notes, fabricated claims, manipulated narratives, and even allegations that a journalist had been offered 60,000 rand in cash to suppress negative reporting. That showed us what happens when corruption is threatened. It organizes, it attacks, it misleads, and it tries to intimidate. But we will not be intimidated, we will not back down. We will not allow this department to go back to the good old days. There are many officials in this department who want us to deliver and who want reform to succeed. And I commend them and I thank them for their hard work, their long hours, and their resilience in the face of pressure and obstruction. But there are also those that don't want to change. There are people who are more loyal to private interests, patronage networks, than they are to the Constitution, the PFMA, and the people of South Africa. We will not negotiate with those that treat public office as a private business opportunity and who believe that public money is their God-given right to loot. It is therefore wholly unacceptable that senior officials have so far refused to undertake lifestyle audits. Honest public servants should not fear accountability, especially in a department responsible for billions of rands in assets, leases, projects, and procurement. Our ghost employee audit is also nearing completion. We have so far identified 60 individuals paid salaries for years while not being in our employ, while the majority of possible ghost employees are found in KwaZulu-Natal. We will also finalize audits and report non-compliance to the Portfolio Committee. House Chair, the clearest example of why this reform is necessary, as I said, is the PMT, which remains the most urgent area of focus in our portfolio. The PMT should be managing one of South Africa's greatest public assets. It has too often been associated with weak systems, inflated leases, underutilized buildings, and financial pressure. It has not achieved a clean audit, and it continues to find itself in financial mismanagement and operational failures. The state owns thousands of buildings and millions of hectares of land, yet government continues to spend approximately 6 billion rand a year on private leases, which are often, without fail, inflated above market value. We have seen lease submissions that lack the most basic of information required for lawful oversight. Submissions returned with guidance, only for that guidance to be ignored, and leases allowed to lapse to manufacture emergencies in order to bypass proper scrutiny. That is why there has been resistance, and we will continue to fight back. Let me repeat this to nullify a lie that is often told. I do not sign leases. I provide oversight to ensure leases comply with GIAMA, the PFMA, the Constitution, and basic value for money principles. A recent High Court judgment in the Onyoko investments matter confirmed why this oversight is necessary. The court found that the PMTE failed to distinguish between materially different lease transactions, including an offer for 4,300 square meters that required a tender process, and that the department's approach lacked clarity, coherence, and consistency, which we lost with costs. The Auditor General's findings on Telkom Towers further show the consequence of poor asset management. The AG has identified material irregularities relating to the underutilization of property, with most buildings remaining unoccupied or not used for their intended purpose. The public cannot accept a situation where the state owns buildings, fails to use them, allows them to deteriorate, and then continues paying billions to private landlords. That is why the department is implementing a facilities management and prestige financial recovery plan to move from reactive crisis management to a proactive model where the state plans, budgets, maintains, and manages its assets properly. We're also taking action on staffing concerns within the department, including writing to the Public Service Commission to investigate the inexplicable number of people who were made permanent in the sixth administration. We've also received tip-offs that officials are often forced to attend meetings that they should not be at. The department belongs to the people of this country. It does not belong to any individual, landlord, contractor, official, private interest, or criminal syndicate. These challenges confirm why the year ahead must focus on reforms that are both structural, measurable, and implementable. Chair, in terms of our priorities, priority one is about the establishment of the South African National Property Company, as announced by the President in the State of the Nation address. This is one of the most single important reforms in public property management since democracy. The SANPC will shift the state from passive ownership to active asset management by identifying valuable assets, structuring partnerships, and unlocking private investment into our assets. Just this morning, I presented our model to BlackRock at a roadshow attended by the President. The response confirmed real appetite for a professionally governed public property platform that can unlock value from the state's assets. This is how we reduce reliance on expensive leases, turn dormant assets into productive assets, and use well-located state land for mixed-use precincts, affordable housing, and urban renewal. The PMT in its current form, unfortunately, cannot do this work at scale, speed, or discipline required. That's why the property management company must be professionally governed, commercially capable, transparent, and built on a credible asset register. To this end, today, I announced that I'll issue a directive in terms of Section 18 of GIAMA to devolve leasing to client departments under certain conditions, while the department retains final approval and oversight as we continue the work of establishing our asset management capability. This will reduce the number of costly month-to-month leases that many client departments currently find themselves in. Our second priority will be around EPWP reform and working on infrastructure. Having launched the pilot in KZN with Limpopo next, our focus in the year ahead will be on strengthening digital recruitment, improving participation verification, working with public bodies, and finalizing the EPWP recruitment guidelines for consultation. The goal is clear. It's to move EPWP away from temporary relief towards a program that provides dignity through work, skills development, and pathways into permanent employment. Our third priority will be around small harbour reform to ignite economic growth. South Africa's small harbours have enormous unrealized potential, but many have been neglected and the economic value has not been properly unlocked. We are now developing a framework to determine the best use model for each harbour so that every site can be assessed according to its local economic potential. Through this work, small harbours can support fishing, tourism, transport, small business development, local manufacturing, and coastal regeneration. This is how coastal public assets can create jobs where people live, attract investment into overlooked towns, and unlock local economies. Chairperson, The year ahead will not be easy. We face, as I said, weak systems, old failures, vested interests, financial pressures, and decaying assets. But we will not slow down. We will fight corruption, we will strengthen governance, we will stabilize our entities, including reforming EPWP, fixing PMTE, unlocking public assets, and to drive infrastructure delivery. This is how we will turn the department into an economic delivery unit of South Africa. I hereby table vote 13 for your consideration. I thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Piri.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Let me start by standing on the protocol that was established by the Minister and acknowledge everybody here, even the entities, and not forgetting, as I stand, from the African National Congress, which is the leader of the GNU. I must acknowledge the presence of the NEC member, which is the DM of this department, NEC, my leader, Zikalala, as well as the NEC members of the Women's League, led by Mam, I forgot the city, Mam Dunjwa and Teliswa. I must acknowledge that I'm sent by the African National Congress and would like to express the support of this budget vote because it believes that the budget will assist the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure to fulfill its mandate to the people of South Africa. We must also understand that in order to ensure community safety, health, quality, and life of public department and public works department is tasked with planning, designing, building and operating and maintaining vital public infrastructure and facilities. I'm glad to hear that the minister is riding smoothly on the foundation that was laid by the previous ministers and following the footsteps that were made by the previous leadership in that department. There's no way you can ride without being laid a proper foundation. So the foundation is proper. We want to appreciate and acknowledge and thank the leadership of the previous minister in the name of the DM of this department. This can be achieved through infrastructure management by planning and maintaining roads, bridges, public transit system, and street light. Managing water supply, sewer system, water treatment, and solid waste disposal, construction and maintenance, creating and constructing public infrastructure, as well as keeping government's building, parks and public areas in the good conditions. Yes, indeed, we want to appreciate what you have just outlined without making notions that people are corrupt. We are saying, Minister, proceed with your good work. As it has been said, you have got a foundation that was laid by the previous minister. The stormwater management, managing water runoff and preventing the flooding and its erosion and environmental contamination. That is our mandate as government, and our people deserve the best commitment from us as leaders and public service. No one must not agree to that. We want to appreciate and support you fully as we have laid the foundation. The goal of the ANC in 2024 and its manifesto, it says it wanted to create 2.5 million jobs over a 5-year period through public works project and its significant infrastructure investment. And indeed, its key priorities are to include expanding public works program that you have just highlighted, upgrading municipal infrastructure, roads, water and electricity, while accelerating energy grid expansion with over 1.2 trillion in planned infrastructure investment. In order to generate labor-intensive jobs, EPWP will be expanded by utilizing the municipal infrastructure grant, and support for small medium enterprises will be prioritized through increased support for cooperatives, small enterprises and township or village economies. Quantifying impact and ensuring quality will be key, and that requires us to continuously examine the medium-term expenditure framework goals, like to generate more than 1 million employment possibilities, with an emphasis on quality, duration, skills intensity of these opportunities beyond their numeral values. Infrastructure standard and labor-intensive method are to be evaluated in balancing how the department intends to use labor-intensive techniques to minimize or to maximize employment creation while maintaining the durability and quality of its infrastructure. Enhancing intergovernmental coordination should start from examining 6.1 billion in transit to provinces and municipalities of the EPWP. As you have said, we really support and we agree with you. Evaluating systems to guarantee effective reporting and economical expenditure by 200 government agencies and non-governmental organizations. Sustainable work require us to urgently assess how quickly EPWP participants enter a formal and long-term work and what kind of follow-ups is available. And that's what you have been alluding. This is the mandate of the ANC. Monitoring and evaluation of policy feedback. We need to understand or to start investigating and analyzing the significance of EPWP reporting system in supplying information to improve employment regulation and guarantee public accountability. We must note that the country continues to suffer from mass unemployment, especially the youth. The main structural cause of unemployment in South Africa is a mismatch between workers' skill set and the demand of a quickly changing market, which is made worse by slow economic growth that doesn't produce enough jobs. But you are doing it correctly, Minister. We are saying continue to do that together as an executive. Many job seekers reside far from economic center and lack access of high quality education, which is legacy of apartheid. And that apartheid, we are happy. As a leading government of a GNU, you are playing far from it. You are moving smoothly. This situation is even more severe for young people. We regularly live a broken basic education system with low literacy and numeracy capabilities and are often shut out of a labor market that values demonstrated talents because they lack work experience. And that's what we are bringing with the foundation of the ANC. While protecting current employees, strict labor rules can make recruiting young and unproven applicants more expensive and riskier, which makes business favor older, more seasoned applicants. As a result, a large number of young people give up and completely leave the workforce.
Thank you, Honorable Piri. Your time
I
is
want
now
to take this
expired.
opportunity and emphasize we support this budget
Thank
vote
you.
as you are following the footsteps of the ANC
Thank you.
mandate.
Thank you. The Honorable Mkhize.
Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, and the people of South Africa. The budget vote for public works and infrastructure alongside its entities is not merely inefficient, it is strategically incoherent, fiscally timid, and politically dishonest in the face of a collapsing built environment and mass unemployment. As the Umkhonto weSizwe Party, firmly rooted in the radical traditions of transformation and dignity of our people, we cannot endorse a budget that asks the poor and the working class to fund overdrafts, audit failures, and quiet privatization instead of concrete, visible change in their communities. Our people were clear in 2024 when they gave the MK Party a mandate to complete the unfinished business of liberation, not only in the economy, but in the very bricks, mortar, and land that houses the state and its services. You cannot call yourselves government while you preside over leaking roofs in hospitals, collapsing ceilings in courts, and decaying police stations that are supposed to serve its people. A truly developmental state does not outsource its backbone infrastructure to private landlords and then claim to be building a capable state. That is an awkward contradiction. House Chair, let us start with the most basic question. Which budgets are we voting on? I believe most of the honorable members might have noted that for the same year, for the same entity, Parliament is presented with two contradictory totals. National Treasury estimates of national expenditure allocates 14.58 billion, while the department annual performance plan shows 17.88 billion rands for the year 2026-2027. Program allocations also differ. It is not a brainer that something is very wrong, yet we are told to simply vote yes for this budget and move on. The MK party demands that before a cent is appropriated, the department must table a reconciled schedule, ENE, APP, and audited figures, program by program, explaining every difference line by line. Until then, this budget is numerically unreliable and politically unacceptable. It violates Chapter 10, Section 195 of the Constitution, and the most basic standard of truthfulness that our people expect from our democratic parliament. Honorable members, the department loves to clothe itself in the language of a resilient, ethical, and a capable department. But the PMTE remains stuck on a qualified audit, with more areas of qualification now than before. After years of talk about professionalization, digitization, and consequence management, the Auditor General still cannot fully trust the numbers of this massive property empire. When the books cannot be trusted, it means Parliament and the public do not know in a verifiable way how well or how badly billions of rands in movable public assets are being managed. Chairperson, the contradictions do not end there. The PMTE sits on reported paper wealth of 170.5 billion rands in total equity and liabilities, including 153.4 billion rands in accumulated surplus. Yet, the same entity tells Parliament that it is undergoing concern risks because clients do not pay their accommodation charges. How do you sit on a surplus of 153 billion rands while complaining that you are at the edge of an overdraft because of non-payment? We are told that over the medium term, the PMTE still spends 57 billion, including 44 billion for maintenance and 12.5 billion for refurbishment, repair, and capital projects for 19 departments. And yes, on paper, this does sound impressive. But when we compare the 2026-2027 targets with the last year, the truth appears. In Program 2, properties processed for letting out drop from 200 to 100. Strategic development properties fall from 25 to 10. In Program 3, completed capital work projects decline from 78 to 60. Designs completed drop from 105 to 74. Consultant at procurement stage fall from 68 to 48. Program 5's physical verification of immovable assets declines from 21,916 to 21,436. In real terms, the Real Estate Management Service and Facilities Management Service, which are the core programs that keep buildings functional, suffer real decreases in purchasing power, leaving us with fewer projects completed, fewer designs, fewer properties, and fewer assets verified, and less real money for maintenance. The government cannot speak of inclusive growth while clinics in Chuaelo decay, Home Affairs buildings in Pietermaritzburg collapse, and government offices in rural areas across the country crumble. South Africa's service delivery is being hindered by the consistent delays, which now sit at an average wait time of 41 months. This is clear evidence that the GNU's President Ramaphosa's ambitious reform agenda has failed. Without full transparency, this is privatization by stealth. It is the quiet transfer of the people's land and buildings into private hands under the cover optimization and partnership. Come local government elections, the Umkhonto weSizwe Party will show you how it's done. The MK Party stands with communities who sit in overcrowded, unsafe public buildings with a small elite circles around non-core assets and PPPs. For that reason, House Chairperson, we reject Budget Vote 13 and its related appropriations. Our people have waited long enough. They deserve the dividends of a freedom they fought and lost their lives for. Safe schools, dignified clinics, and functional courts of law and public buildings that reflect their worth as the true owners of this land. As I conclude, I urge this House to demand the department return with one honest, reconciled, people-centered budget, a budget that uses every rand of public property to build a capable state and a transformed economy. Before you ask South Africans to accept another year of confusion, quiet privatization, and managed decline of their public infrastructure, vote the Umkhonto weSizwe in the LGE elections. Gwaza Umkhonto! Gwaza!
The Honourable Bath.
House Chair.
Honorable House Chairperson, former Minister Thulas Nxesi once described the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure as a patient in a hospital. It wasn't a fitting analogy, but if we are honest, despite years of assurances, that patient never really got better and rightfully hasn't been discharged. Because the symptoms have remained the same. Neglected government buildings, delayed infrastructure projects, billions spent on private leases, weak financial controls, and a property management trading entity that has continued to slide deeper into financial distress. In many respects, the patient has remained in intensive care. Today, however, under the 7th administration, there is genuine reason for hope. The diagnosis is clearer, the treatment plan is focused, and for the first time in many years, the vital signs are beginning to improve. But Honourable Chairperson, recovery is not automatic. If the treatment is not administered consistently and decisively, the patient will not recover. In fact, the patient could relapse. Because meaningful reform is not always comfortable. There are those both inside and outside the system who will resist the very changes that are needed to restore this department. Not because the treatment is wrong, but because a healthy, well-managed department leaves far less room for waste, mismanagement, and the abuse of public resources. A healthy department closes the taps on those who have grown comfortable feeding off inefficiencies and weak controls over all these years. The medication may be difficult, it may have side effects, but it is necessary because the department does not belong to any individual or interest group. It belongs to the people of South Africa, and it must run in their interest. Honourable House Chairperson, the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure is the landlord, the builder, the maintenance team of the South African national government. It manages more than 80,000 buildings, from police stations and courts to forensic labs, government offices, and service centers like Home Affairs and Department of Social Development, for example. Not schools and clinics like some of my colleagues like to think. Those are provincial competencies. So when this department fails, the consequences are felt across the Republic. But when public works works, South Africa certainly can work. One of the most encouraging reforms is the overhaul of the expanded public works program. For too long, EPWP has too often been associated with unfair recruitment, patronage, and short-term opportunities with no future for beneficiaries. But that is now slowly changing. The department is introducing automation, biometric verification, and fairer recruitment processes. More importantly, it is repositioning the EPWP towards skills development, accredited training, and a real exit pathway into employment. The Working on Infrastructure pilot takes us further, linking participants to apprenticeships, artisan training, and careers in the construction sector. We are also starting to see a turnaround in the Independent Development Trust. For many years, the IDT struggled with governance and financial sustainability, yet it remains one of the country's most important infrastructure delivery agents. Under a new and competent board, the renewed focus on governance, sustainability, and delivery is a welcome step towards stabilizing this institution so that schools, clinics, and community infrastructure can be delivered more effectively. Chairperson, one of the most overlooked opportunities in strengthening South Africa's public finances lies in how we manage state-owned property, valued at over 150 billion rand. Too many government buildings stand empty while still costing the taxpayer in rates, security, and maintenance. The decision to dispose of over 800 underutilized properties is a step in the right direction, reducing waste while unlocking the value that can be reinvested into fixing critical infrastructure. But to do this consistently and at scale, we need a far more professional and disciplined approach to managing public assets. House Chairperson, perhaps the most important long-term reform is the establishment of the South African National Property Company. As far back as 1999, Cabinet recognized the need for a professional state property company, but this vision was never properly realized. Instead, we have been left with the PMTE, with a growing overdraft, weak debt collection, and many underutilized assets. So this reform, under this administration, offers an opportunity to finally manage public property properly, to reduce waste, to generate revenue, and to unlock value for the people of South Africa. And at the same time, the department is rebuilding its own capacity. By reviving workshops and insourcing maintenance, government is restoring its ability to fix what it owns. We should not have to outsource every broken tap and leaking roof to the private sector. This shift will reduce costs, improve response times, and create many opportunities for artisans and technical skills development. Of course, House Chairperson, serious challenges do remain. The PMTE continues to face a large overdraft and ongoing difficulties in collecting money owed to it by client departments. And these are not small issues. But for the first time in years, they are being confronted directly through restructuring, digitizing, improving systems, stronger controls, and a clear focus on financial sustainability. Honorable House Chairperson, the patient is not yet ready to leave the hospital, but the prognosis is positive, the diagnosis is clear, the treatment is underway, and if we stay the course, this department will regain its strength and help get South Africa working. I thank you.
The Honourable S. Letlape.
House Chair? Chair?
Yes.
The EFF, we are on the virtual platform.
Please proceed, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Chair. House Chair, the EFF rejects this budget votes 13 on the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. This department is strategically placed to create jobs and fix the country's infrastructure. All it needs is the right kind of leadership that is educated and has a vision. With that alone, this department could be the center driver of a state-led development. But this is a department that is highly entrenched in the petty battles of the minister and the deputy minister. It's a department that is led by people who are more concerned about their egos than delivering on the mandate of the department. This is a department chair that owns just about 5 million hectares of land and over 80,000 buildings, inclusive of residents and offices. Despite this, the department has been unable to leverage this to catalyze wider redistribution of rights to land and property while maintaining its crucial custodianship powers. Rights to this land must immediately be redistributed to Black people across the country who remain landless and vulnerable to evictions every day by the right-wing elements of this GNU government. This is a cardinal pillar number 1 of the EFF, and the department better start implementing it now before the EFF takes over this government. House Chair, this department speaks about reforms, yet communities continue to experience collapsing public infrastructure. Police stations are neglected, government buildings are abandoned, maintenance backlog on social infrastructure projects remain delayed, while billions are being allocated each and every financial year. There continues to be growing number of stalled projects across the country. Communities are left with incomplete buildings, abandoned construction sites, and unfinished facilities that consume public money without delivering public value. Projects are launched with promises and media statements, but many never reach completion. Contractors disappear, disputes emerge, and investigations are being done while communities are left waiting for years. This is not infrastructure delivery, it's institutional paralysis. The forensic findings about Telkom Towers also exposes deep governance failures within that department. Year and year, this matter continues to raise serious questions about reckless decision-making within the department. South Africans are tired of forensic investigations that just produce reports but never any consequences. If billions can be mismanaged in strategic state properties transactions without accountability, then the entire infrastructure system becomes vulnerable to state capture. The department also cannot fully operationalize and stabilize its own head offices. Yet it expects South Africans to believe it can manage the infrastructure needed to run this country. The audit outcomes are equally worrying, House Chair. Year and year, the same findings continue to be appearing with little meaningful improvement. The same governance failures remain unresolved. This is no longer just an isolated problem, it's institutionalized dysfunction. One of the greatest concerns again for the EFF is the continued misuse of the EPWP program, which has an illusion that unemployment is being addressed. The report proudly speaks about work opportunities created, but they avoid the reality that the EPWP program has become a cycle of temporary poverty management instead of a pathway into sustainable employment. Many participants in the EPWP program spend years rotating between short-term opportunities with no long-term security. They have no pension, no guaranteed transition into permanent employment. This is not economic empowerment, House Chair. It is the recycling of unemployment through administration and statistics. This budget clearly demonstrates that the democratic states that steadily outsource its own capacity instead of building internal engineering and technical capacity, the state has become dependent on consultant and fragmented implementation agencies. The EFF rejects this hollowed out model of governance and we reject this budget. I thank you.
The Honorable S.L. Nkobo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. The IFP acknowledges budget and remains steadfast in the commitment to ensuring that all citizens have access to quality infrastructure. We strongly believe that the discrepancy between rural and urban public works should be reduced. All South Africans are entitled to the same quality of civic infrastructure, regardless of whether they live in the metropole or remote area. Consequently, we welcome the department's commitment to the National Infrastructure Plan, which takes practical measures to address institutional delays in the creation and maintenance of the functional public facilities. This is a key step to reducing the rural-urban disparity of our country's civic infrastructure. We also support the department's focus on the job creation and inclusive economic growth as outlined in the medium-term development plan. The public works sector has immense potential to uplift South African citizens through large-scale development projects. The IFP emphasizes that employment opportunities must remain a national priority, particularly for marginalized demographics like women and rural dwellers. For this reason, we support the department's decision to encourage women's economic empowerment through practical measures like preferential procurement. Considering the importance of job creation in the public works sector, we note with concern the significant cut to the operations portion of expanded public works program. This program serves as an essential purpose by creating temporary works opportunities for South Africa's vulnerable communities. It offers financial support where it is most needed, while building and maintaining essential infrastructure for the wider public to benefit from. The 83.1 million rand cut to operations may place strain on the internal functioning of the expanded public works program. We must ensure that the sufficient resources are allocated to maintain the quality and quantity of work opportunities created by the department. We also note the drastic decrease in the funding to the empowerment and economic development sector of the Council for Built Environment. The budget for this sector was reduced by 98.2%. This is diverse from the department's stated focus on national economic empowerment, which the IFP maintains must remain an urgent priority. Excuse me. We urge the department to consider the valuable role that infrastructural development can play in uplifting South Africa's economically vulnerable communities. We welcome the increase in the resources channeled into the professional skills and capacity development program. Additionally, we are aligned with the decision to increase the number of student graduates and professionals supported by the department to 6,000. This internal capacity building creates a valuable employment pipeline and encourages the development of skilled workforce ready to enhance our country's essential infrastructure. A well-functioning public works department is an essential building block in the productive, equitable South Africa. We call on the department to prioritize quality infrastructure delivery that bridges the rural-urban divide, while also encouraging sustainable job creation. The IFP supports this budget vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Van Wyk.
House Chairperson, greeting to all the honorable members in the House. And by the way, ek is 'n honorable member van die Patriotic Alliance, maar second, ek Paisani. Today, the Patriotic Alliance rises during this budget vote for the public works and infrastructure, not merely to debate numbers on a paper, but to speak for communities that continue to live in conditions that insult human dignity. Honorable Speaker, we recently conducted oversight in Knoflokskraal, and what we witnessed was heartbreaking. We are told that 41.4 million was allocated or spent in that community. But the question we ask today is simple. Where is the money, Minister? Because what we saw does not reflect 41.4 million worth of development. We saw elders still relying to go and relieve themselves outside. We saw communities without proper sanitation, without reliable water, without electricity, without visible infrastructure that accounts for such enormous amount of public money. Honorable House Chair, the people of Knoflokskraal are not statistics. They are South Africans. They are taxpayers. They are citizens who deserve dignity. While we support, we demand a detailed breakdown on every cent that was spent. We demand disclosure of all contractors, procurement processes, implementing agents, and timelines. We further call for all monitoring reports, audits, and any forensic investigation linked to the project to be made public. Honorable House Chair, public works cannot become a public waste. This department carries the responsibility of restoring dignity through infrastructure development. Infrastructure is not a luxury. It is the foundation of economic participation, safety, health, and opportunity. And the Patriotic Alliance supports infrastructure investment, but we will never support corruption, negligence, or the betrayal of poor communities. Our people are tired of empty promises. They want roads, water, sanitation, electricity, and visible delivery, not press statements. Let Knoflokskraal become a turning point where accountability finally matters and where government remember that public money belongs to the people. Honorable Minister, you want to do a containment project on Knoflokskraal. You must tell us what will it cost the department? Instead of using millions to go and contain people on Knoflokskraal, rather go and meet with them, have an oversight, learn their ways. Stop calling press conference and call them criminals. Stop telling them that they are smuggling with weapons. They are smuggling with drugs and abalone. What did you and the Premier Ellen Windy did and the MEC of police? Hoekom het julle nie so intoe gegaan nie? Hoekom het julle nie gereed nie? But you are lying. You are lying the same way that Jan van Riebeeck lied in 1652 that our people are criminals. We are not criminals. We are human beings and we deserve respect. So die Jan van Riebeeck geesiekie van jou, we're gonna deal with it. Ons bysa nie.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Your time has expired. Honourable, order, honourable members. Honourable member, why do you want to be recognized?
Chair, I had my hand up. I wanted to challenge the fact that he had called the minister a liar.
Yeah, honourable member, I would have been able to deal with that. You say you had your hand up, but I only saw it once the member has left the podium. Please be reminded that my attention has to be drawn to an alleged infringement when it happens. Honourable Kobe.
Good afternoon, Honourable Chair, and my greetings outstretched to the honourable members here in this House and on the online platform joining us. Honourable House Chair, I'd like to begin by dispelling a myth that the Minister has repeatedly tried to sell South Africans. The fantasy of somehow building and turning South Africa into a construction site. Let's look at the actual numbers in the construction industry. In quarter 4 of 2024, contraction. In quarter 1 of 2025, there was a contraction. In quarter 2 of 2025, contraction. And then quarter 3 of 2025, a microscopic growth of just 0.1%. Quarter 4 of 2025, back again to contraction. Annually, the construction sector contracted by 5.4 in 2024 and 4.4 in 2025. In quarter 1, this is the worst still, of 2026, it saw the second largest contraction under the minister's watch with a total loss of 114,000 jobs. A third of the total loss of jobs in this whole country. This means that 10,000 construction workers lost their jobs each week between January and March under this incapable minister. This is an industry that's going backwards under a minister who's more focused on branding himself and taking his partner on international trips to Brazil and UK on taxpayers' expense. South Africans are not fools. No amount of posters with the minister smiling down on us will change the cold, hard truth. He has failed to turn South Africa into a construction site, and he has failed to produce any credible plan of doing so. And this has been the defining characteristic of the GNU. Plans and principles are traded for perks. Beyond the minister's economic failures lies something that is even much more disturbing: the irregular appointments of friends and DA allies. He shifted the former chief of staff from Silas Brink's office to Public Works as a chief of staff when the chap barely has a post-matric education. Minister, you don't have a post-matric education. He doesn't. Who's supposed to be advising who, Minister? But I guess this is why we have an establishment of an illegally established SSD unit, which is carefully snuggled and nestled under the DG's office. And I say it's illegally constituted because it has no feasibility study, no assessment report, and no business case, and it has circumvented Section 33 of Public Service Regulations Act. Honourable House Chair, let's talk about the IDT, which you have done a remarkable job in, by the way, Minister, in removing and eradicating the corruption there. But let's talk about that this entity is supposed to be a self-sustaining entity, but your department has been giving it bailouts annually. Vehemently, your party has been against giving SOEs bailouts, but you are transferring 50 million of this department's money to this entity that is supposed to be self-sustaining. This is not progress, Minister, it is regression. But over and above, another sobering issue is perhaps the minister's conduct. The committee the Parliament's Ethics Committee has found Minister Dean McPherson guilty of using discriminatory language against Action SA supporters, calling them amapar. The committee found that the minister breached section 16 of the Ethics Code, which require members of Parliament to maintain public confidence and trust in the integrity of the Parliament and be committed to the eradication of all forms of discrimination. As a minister, there is a certain way you must uphold yourself, and that is not it. But even more disturbing, Honourable Speaker, is the complete silence from his party. The DA seated here has taken no meaningful action against this minister. When discriminatory remarks are tolerated without consequence, it sends a message that such conduct is acceptable, and this is shameful. Action SA will never tolerate such conduct, Honourable House Chair. As South Africans, we deserve a leader who unites this country, not
Thank you,
leaders who
Honourable
demean
Kobe.
and
Your
stigmatize
time has now
citizens.
expired.
If any of the GNU members had a
Honourable
conscience
Kobe.
at all, they would also
Thank you.
reject this budget. As Action SA, we reject it. I thank you very much, House Chair.
The Deputy Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure.
Honorable Chair, honorable members, the Minister and the DG, the Department of Public Works continues to play its role toward achieving the three strategic priorities of the seventh administration. That is driving inclusive growth and creation of jobs, reduce poverty and tackling the high cost of living, building a capable, ethical and developmental state. Our entities continues with this vision. One of the critical sector in growing the economy is that of infrastructure. South Africa cannot achieve inclusive growth without strengthening the construction industry and supporting contractors, especially small contractors. The research tells us that 65% of registered contractors are black, yet only 10% of that is youth-owned, 26% is owned by women. There is a need for intensive transformation in the department and across the construction sector. It is because of that we remain steadfast on the BEE and all transformation imperatives. Honorable Chair, we have a built program under the CIDP. This provides support and training to small contractors. But yesterday we launched a landmark intervention with the establishment of construction fund with the partnership between the CIDP and the Department of Small Business Development entity, the CIFA. We applaud this as it will go a long way in supporting small contractors. We continue to work through Agrima SA to support innovation and introduction of new solutions in the industry. Professionalization is continuing under the CPE, and it is intensifying, especially to integrate Africans and Black professionals in the sector. We are working to connect communities through the Welisizwe bridges. We have completed 122 bridges across 6 provinces. 49 bridges are under construction and 119 bridges are under planning. We are in advanced stages to ensure the establishment of small harbours in KwaZulu-Natal, Northern Cape and Eastern Cape. We cannot allow a situation or a landscape designed by the apartheid regime to persist. It was the apartheid regime that designated the whole 12 small harbours to be in Western Cape. We must explore the ocean economy for the entire country. Honorable Chair, in 2014, the department took a decision to stop the services of workshops. In 2024, we took a decision to resuscitate the workshops so that we do internal maintenance and stop outsourcing. I'm happy to report that almost 7 provinces have started working through workshops. We are moving to ensure that we change the allocation from allocating the budget for those who will for call out, but we do it internally. And I'm happy that Bart has referred to this program because I have led it personally, including convening number of sessions working on it. We must build a capable state. When the government of national unity came into being, many people applauded this as a critical development that will help fight corruption, maladministration, and poor performance. The department needs an intense and holistic fight against corruption. We must fight corruption wherever it takes place. We should not deal with the issues of corruption selectively or in a way that is not objective. Let's deal with it objectively. Last week, I raised a number of issues relating to the abuse of recruitment procedures, political interference, and general maladministration that is deepening in the department. I did take the committee into confidence on the recourse I'm taking on these malfeasance. We're not going to tolerate corruption. We must be holistic. Fight corruption wherever it takes aggregate. We must equally protect public entities. Protect public entities from political abuse by political officers or politicians. We must not find again our CEOs and officials destroyed by political ambitions through wrong instructions. We must be principled. We must ensure that we protect the state as the state. The state must serve the people. One of the key projects we are leading is Operation Bring Back. Operation Bring Back is about bringing back the properties that are stolen or that have been transferred or illegally occupied. We are making progress to that. But at the same time, we must reactivate the initiative to ensure that once those properties are brought back, they are properly utilized to optimize and have an income that will help the state grow its revenue. This is quite important for all of us. It is also important for all spheres of government. The work we're doing in the IDT is quite correct and commendable. And I think the minister have reported at length on this. We're grateful that the Sarah Batman project that has been stalled will be, during this financial year, resuscitated and started again so that it preserves that heritage of Sarah Batman, one of the heroes of South Africa. But we're not doing that for its own sake. We must be holistic in terms of ensuring that we fight the delay of project. Police stations, magistrate courts, and all government projects must be completed on time and within budget. We must equally ensure that while we devolve functions to respective departments, we don't allow a situation where corruption will become a norm. We must fight corruption in the property lease processes. This is one of the commitments we made in 2024 to the Auditor General, that at least the top 10 of lease companies that are benefiting in the department must be investigated. It cannot be that lease will be a secluded section for certain people in government. It must be used effectively. It must be used to house government department, but also to transform the country. But eventually, the state must utilize its own buildings. These must be state-owned buildings that must be built by the Department of Public Works, working together with other spheres of government. We're proud of the MINMEC and the work we're doing in local government. We are working in partnership to assist municipalities through capacity, especially the technical capacity that has been eroded in number of our municipalities. Honorable Chair and honorable members, I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Nkosi.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. The National Development Plan and Vision 2030 puts an emphasis on public works and infrastructure as a key component of South Africa's infrastructure development, economic expansion and job creation, with the goal of eradicating poverty and reducing inequality in our land. Council for the Built Environment emphasizes professionalization, skills enhancement, transformation and sustainability, which aligns with the NDP's objectives for infrastructure, skills development and inclusive economic growth. The organization promotes involvement in cohesive development that corresponds with national objectives. The African National Congress, leading the GNU, declares its support for the budget and believes it is crucial for contributing to the ANC manifesto and assisting the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure in the execution of its mandate. But to achieve these imperatives, we must build state capacity with a strong skills pipeline for the built environment, and this requires us to tackle the graduate to employment gap, evaluating the 96 million investment to assist 3,800 beneficiaries through bursaries, professional investigating the impact of the skills pipeline strategy on accelerating employment or self-employment opportunities for graduates. Backing key infrastructure initiatives, assessing the 983.8 million budget for project preparation services via Infrastructure South Africa to facilitate investor-friendly projects. Maintenance and refurbishment as a job catalyst, evaluating proposals for capital initiatives, e.g. union buildings, parliamentary area, court houses and police facilities, involving 10.2 billion for enhancement, and this must generate employment prospects while tackling infrastructure deficits. State of the nation address imperatives. CBE priorities are professionalism, accountability, sustainability, and transformation. Respond to SONA, demands for enhanced governance, skills advancement and industry transformation. Its initiatives promote public safety, quality infrastructure, and fair access. The Professional Skills and Capacity Development Program seeks to assist 4,000 students, graduates, and professionals each year, enhancing the sector's capabilities and inclusiveness, directly national addressing national priorities. Honorable House Chair, transformation of the construction and property industries. We need to examine the department's duty to foster expansion, employment creation, and change, including supervision of organizations such as the Construction Industry Development Board, to assist Black-owned and managed contractors via the Best Practice Project Evaluation Program. Transformation guarantees that public infrastructure spending actively promotes Black economic empowerment in a country where apartheid-era policies routinely bad Black South Africans, especially Black colored and Indian professionals and businesses from profitable state contracts and land ownership. The state can break up long-standing monopolies, generate sustainable jobs, and create a resilient, competitive industry by enforcing target procurement policies, skills development programs, and enterprise support, such as requiring that a portion of public works projects go to Black-owned or women-owned construction firms. Transformation fosters creative, affordable housing and climate resilient infrastructure, while also improving service delivery by empowering local, diverse contractors to better respond to community needs. We need to also admit there has been constructive expenditure over the medium term. There are still significant questions regarding the ability to carry out these projects and whether the money will result in the provision of concrete services. Critics point out to a recurring governance failure in which public works departments at the provincial and local levels, which are supposed to be the implementing agents, are unable to carry out their mandates and continue to underspend on grants, putting billions intended for development at risk. Evidence of wasteful spending, such as the 80 billion spent on underutilized bus rapid transit systems and financial management within the expanded public works, where funds which were directed to illegitimate beneficiaries, including deceased individuals, heightens this concern. Despite the overall increase, infrastructure pledges civil society organization contend that the budget effectively disinvests in vital social infrastructure, pointing out that conditional grants for the revitalization of schools and health facilities have decreased in real terms due to inflation, putting communities at risk
Thank
of
you,
having
Honourable Member.
cramped
Your time
classrooms
has now
and
expired.
run-down clinics.
Thank you.
As the ANC,
Honourable Member, Your time
we
has
support
expired.
budget vote 1310. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Thring.
Thank you, Honourable House Chairperson. The ACDP welcomes the opportunity to engage on this budget vote, recognizing this department as central to economic growth, job creation, and the stewardship of the state's vast immovable assets. But the ACDP posits that the department's allocation of approximately 8.1 billion rand must deliver tangible outcomes. These funds must translate into real jobs, functional infrastructure, and restored public confidence, not inflated contracts or idle assets. The ACDP commends the blacklisting of 40 contractors for corruption and non-performance. It is a decisive step towards accountability. However, this must be the beginning, not the exception, towards consistent consequence management, transparent reporting, and the recovery of misused funds. A critical weakness in the department remains the absence of a credible, up-to-date asset register. As one of the largest property owners in the country, the state still lacks accurate data on what it owns and where those assets are and what their condition is. This undermines planning, fuels inefficiency, and prevents the unlocking of economic value through partnerships and development. Equally concerning is the continued neglect of maintenance. Government buildings are deteriorating while the state continues to lease private properties despite owning underutilized facilities. This is not just inefficient, it is fiscally irresponsible. Additionally, the perpetual scourge of the ghost workers, IDT inefficiencies, and the recurring nightmare of the Telkom Towers debacle will leave a blight on the minister's legacy if not speedily addressed. Governance challenges persist, including project delays, underspending, and weak oversight of the property management trading entity. The Portfolio Committee has rightfully called for stricter lease management, improved procurement transparency, and stronger monitoring. These recommendations, the ACDP insists, must be implemented without delay. The ACDP further calls for urgent reforms, a verified publicly accessible digit asset register, a strategic asset management plan to optimize or release underutilized properties, and prioritized maintenance funding, including strengthened internal capacity to ensure delivery. As kingdom builders, the ACDP recommends the parable of the talents, which reminds us that faithful stewardship leads to increase, while neglect leads to loss. We further assert that it is ethical, effective management that becomes drivers of dignity, opportunity, and economic renewal for all South Africans. I thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Is there a speaker on behalf of the UDM? Is there a speaker on behalf of Rise Mzansi? Bosa? The ATM? Al Jamal? The NCC? The PAC? The UAT? Then I recognize the Honorable Van Staden.
Thank you, House Chairperson. House Chairperson, while the Beitbridge border fence scandal did not arise during the current minister's term of office, the Freedom Front Plus welcomes the Constitutional Court dismissal of applications for leave to appeal by 2 construction companies seeking to overturn the special tribunal's ruling in this matter. It is ultimately the taxpayers and the state who suffered the greatest losses as a result of the scandal. Originating in 2020, this issue was vigorously pursued within this committee over an extended period to ensure accountability on the part of the then Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure and to see justice prevail. 6 years later, we trust that every possible effort will now be made to recover the funds lost and to hold all responsible parties accountable. The Freedom Front Plus supports the committee's recommendation that a detailed progress report on the Operation Bring Back program be submitted, including a breakdown of illegal occupied state assets. This initiative, launched by the former minister and the current deputy minister, aims to reclaim more than 1,260 state-owned properties. Such a report is essential to assess whether the program is achieving its intended objectives and delivering tangible results. The underutilization of state-owned properties places a substantial financial burden not only on government, but ultimately on taxpayers. While leasing these properties may provide some relief, its overall effectiveness remains questionable. In the meantime, these assets continue to incur costs for maintenance and security to prevent vandalism and unlawful occupation, even when they stand vacant. It is an established fact that the failure of client departments to meet their monthly rental obligations to this department, as highlighted in the report, results in the accumulation of significant overdraft facilities within the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. This is neither sound business practice nor financially stable. It is not viable to continue incurring substantial debt on the basis that one's debtors owe the department money. The situation requires urgent and decisive intervention to resolve a persistent problem that undermines the financial stability of government as a whole, and in particular the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, which is entrusted with safeguarding the key state assets funded by the taxpayer. We also welcome the ongoing efforts to strengthen border management in collaboration with the Department of Home Affairs, the Border Management Authority, and the South African Revenue Service. The Freedom Front Plus supports the recommendation of a portfolio committee. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Is there a speaker on behalf of the Good Party? If not, I recognize the Honorable Madikizela.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Minister McPherson, the Deputy Minister Zigalala, the DG and the team from the department, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Mayor Phiri, members of the House. The GNU's 3 core priorities, driving inclusive growth, reducing poverty, and building a capable ethical state, cannot be achieved without a functional Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. This department is the backbone of service delivery, and yet for too long, it has been a source of embarrassment. The Auditor General's finding paint a sobering picture. Portfolio recorded 25.91 billion rands in irregular expenditure, 61% of total sector irregularities, with 94% of audited entities showing material non-compliance. Fruitless and wasteful expenditure stand at 890 million, representing 63% of the national total, driven largely by poor management. The AG identified 109 material irregularities, 91 of which are linked to financial losses totaling 2.5 billion rands. And infrastructure projects managed by this sector are running an average of 41 months behind schedule. There is over 3.5 years of delays on projects that South Africans are waiting for. Yet our government spent between 5 and 6 billion rands annually renting private properties to house government departments, while state-owned buildings sit empty, illegally occupied, or in disrepair. Operation Bring Back, launched in 2014, is a welcome intervention, but the pace, Deputy Minister, has been unacceptably slow. I also welcome the eventual appointment in December of Infrastructure South Africa's CEO, Mamitsi Masemula, who is tasked with spearheading 1.7 trillion rands in infrastructure investment to meet the national development target. However, I must say that I am concerned of the work that this entity has taken. ISA is currently managing over 300 projects. And according to me, that's too many. A sharper focus on fewer high-impact projects combined with targeted support to municipalities to build their own capacity would deliver far better results. House Chair, I want to acknowledge the political will that the Minister McPherson has demonstrated to reform this department. It is commendable and it deserves the support of everyone in this House who is serious about accountability. And I think the fact that the Minister has been in this department for about 22 months is really shows the kind of changes that we are experiencing. Under his leadership, the department is stabilizing governance, strengthening compliance, and implementing stricter consequence management. It is investing in digital tools and automation to improve project planning and reduce inefficiencies that I spoke about. It is also cleaning up immovable asset register to prevent fraud and strengthening asset management. It is working to unblock stalled projects with a 2026 focus on transforming the department into, his words, a construction site for economic growth. And it is also allocating 90 million rands for professional training and skills development, targeting 1,300 beneficiaries in the built environment in this financial year. And I'm happy that there's an alignment between the Deputy Minister and the Minister in fighting corruption. House Chair, we commend the CIDP's decision to blacklist 52 companies since June 2024. These companies were removed for non-performance, abandoning projects, or submitting fraudulent documents. To put that into context, only one company was blacklisted in the entire period between 2002 and 2024. Now, this is a massive shift, and it signals that the culture of impunity is being challenged by Minister McPherson. We also note progress on consequence management, House Chair. A Special Investigating Unit, or SIU, probe has implicated more than 4,123 officials in possible conflict of interest. Yet between 2012 and 2013 and 2019 and 2020, there were just 293 registered investigation cases, with 19 referred to the SIU. Referrals and investigations have increased significantly under this 7th administration, and we urge the Minister to move with urgency in finalizing them. Accountability deferred is accountability denied. Since this department's mandate expanded from public works and infrastructure, I do not believe that it has been properly structured to meet this mandate. The capability gaps identified by AG confirms this, House Chair. Departments need not only these departments need not only the political will at the top, but a structural overhaul that aligns its people, systems, and resources to what is actually being tasked to deliver. House Chair, this department has the potential to be the single greatest catalyst for infrastructure development and investment and job creation in South Africa.
Thank you, Honourable Member.
Minister McPherson's intentions are clear, the
Thank
actions
you.
are visible.
Your time has now
But the
expired.
intent must be matched with speed. I
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honourable De Lange.
No, thank you so much, House Chair. Let me rise to all the protocols. House Chair, we must say that as the ANC, we support the budget. And we refuse to be the victims of opportunism. We don't only come here to see the red. We see that in this budget, there are areas of regress and there are areas of progress. In where there are areas of regress, Minister, we clear that as the committee will vigorously make sure that we oversight the department that you are leading. But in areas where there is a progress, we must acknowledge that progress, in particular in areas like Infrastructure South Africa, to be the first one that we see the good work that is being done. The second area that we appreciate is the work that is done at IDT. Yes, there were problems, but in those problems also, we see that there is a progress in terms of intervention that are being made by the department to make sure that IDT is what it is supposed to be. Because to understand as an ANC that there is a good contribution that is made by IDT to our communities. But also acknowledge that there's an area that needs the department to look at. Because the IDT has always been having a challenge of maintaining its financial sustainability. An area that must be looked at so that the IDT must be what it is supposed to be. But also, we appreciate the work that is done by CIDB. All that work is good, including blacklisting those companies are not doing well. But in the main also, it's important that we continue to oversee the construction industry, in particular on its financing, to make sure that all the grants that are being provided are adding value in that section. We also know the work that is done by PMT, which is acting as a governing property manager, which is vital on upholding a comprehensive asset registry and minimizing expensive private leases. We see those areas, Minister. The other area that I want to speak to is the question that of a patient. I like it when Honorable Bart says that, Honorable Ngesi once said that this department is a patient. Yes, the patient on its own have a responsibility. A responsibility of a patient, first and foremost, is to appreciate that the patient is ill. Then once the patient appreciates that it is sick, the first thing that he must do, he must go for prescription. And when a medication has been prescribed, then the patient must be able to go and get the prescription. Then what the patient must not avoid is to avoid and to refuse to take a prescription. And that will not lead to what it's supposed to be. In this case, we can see that the department has acknowledged that it is a patient and is prepared to take a prescription. And it has prescription, we see that there is a progress. But we don't say that there not progress also in terms of the areas that it is regressing. We have said also that other important area that must be looked at very clear is the question of the allocation for the prestige policy program, which has dropped. It's an area that must be looked at because it is important, looking on the issue, on the work that is done on the parallel villages, so that all those boards there can work and make sure that there is a prestige accommodation, the state functions board is functioning well. So all the work is done. What also I want to look at is that The ANC believe this budget is important. Important as it is, it shows a proactive and a calculated dedication to bolstering infrastructure and public works sector in our country. In order to create a more capable and moral state, it places a high priority on professionalization, digitalization, a special true SAM system, and a good governance. It is also supports national objectives of inclusive growth and job creation through the EPWP and infrastructure-led development. By transferring resources from outside consultants to internal capacity, maximizing state asset management to create revenue, and upholding a clear policy alignment with the NDP and SONA imperatives. The budget also demonstrates responsible fiscal discipline, laying the groundwork for better service delivery and long-term sustainability. Minister, on your speech today, there is a point I think that you have to look at. In the spirit of a patient that is not refusing to take a prescription. You raise an issue in your speech of the managers are forced to attend a study group for certain political parties. I think for me, where I'm seated, that minister must be careful of is misleading and also intends to assassinate some of your managers. You have to find a way to deal with such issues and to keep your team strong, because as the committee, we want a more unified, a more focused management to deliver and to make South Africa as a construction site. As the ANC, we support the budget vote. Thank you so much.
The next speaker is the Honourable Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure.
Thank you very much, House Chair, and thank you to everyone for their inputs. And I think an interesting debate, because there are clearly two tracks in this debate. The first track is around reform, fixing, breaking down vested interests, and increasing transparency. The second track is around protecting interests, defending wrongdoing, being obstructive and distracting. Now, 2 weeks ago, I met with the Honourable Kobe in Parliament, and I offered her my assistance. And I said that I'm prepared to give you any answer that you would like. All you have to do is ask. And she seemed grateful for that. But it seems this afternoon that she's been set up again, just like she was set up during the IDT scandal, where she defended wrongdoing and she defended the indefensible. And that's really, really sad that, that she chooses to do so. Because, you know, reading for
Honourable
me...
Minister, can you please take a seat? Honourable Kotwe.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Is the Honourable Minister willing to take a question about his dishonesty?
Honourable Minister, are you willing to take a question?
I'm responding. You spoke and it's my turn now. Now, you know, when you want to look at statistics, you know, if you don't like the statistics of the order of Stats SA, go and speak to them about job growth and GDP growth last year. And you know, it's really actually quite hypocritical that she would want to come and talk about what she terms cadre deployment. Because let me tell you about some of the Action SA cadres that were deployed to the Tshwane Mayor's office. Sam Mgobozi, who used to be the communications manager for Action SA, now works in the Mayor's office.
Honourable Minister. Honourable Minister, will you please take a seat? Can the order please, your point of order?
Thank you very much. Is the Minister aware that we are still talking about
Can
public
you
works?
please,
or-
Honourable, can you please tell me which point?
It's a point of relevance into the
Which
Minister's
rule?
debate.
Which rule are you rising on?
Madam, I'm trying to point to the House that the Minister has went off track. If he wants to debate budget vote 13 of
What
public
is
works,
your
he
rule?
should.
What is the point of order? Because what you
My
raising
point
is not
is
a point of
relevance,
order.
ma'am. Madam Chair.
Can you please keep quiet? I can't hear the member speaking. Can you raise your point of order?
It's a point on relevance, Madam Chair. If you could rule on that, I'd be most grateful. Thank you very much.
Can you raise your point?
I'm sorry, ma'am, I just did, unless if you do not count my previous utterances as a point.
I didn't count your previous one as a point of order. Can you raise your point of order so that the minister can take note? And if he needs to answer you, Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam House Chair. I was pointing to the relevance of the minister in the debate of Budget Vote 13 as he's veering off the topic and talking about the city of Tshwane. Thank you, Madam.
Honorable Minister, you can continue.
Andre Kutsia, who used to work for Herman Mashaba, now works for the mayor of Tshwane. Isn't that quite funny? Now, it's also very interesting that the honorable member raised a number of points from a committee meeting that she didn't even attend, and then repeats them word for word here. So I wonder who's briefing her there. Now, let's talk about leases as well. We look forward to the outcome of the SIU investigation that I initiated. And I think that our devolution to client departments is going to greatly assist, and I'm sure that we're going to get a lot of support there. I also want to say that I'm very, very happy that in this department, we do not allow the abuse of appointments, particularly when they are directed by party political officers, into the decisions on who we appoint as DDGs or chief directors. Every person will always be given a fair chance and will be selected on their merits. Honorable Madikizela, let me say that accountability is absolutely important to us. And that's why I refuse to accept that a number of senior officials just simply don't want to do lifestyle audits. That can never, ever be accepted. And if they don't do those lifestyle audits, there will be disciplinary consequences. And so we must ensure that we get to the bottom of that. Let me then refer to the honorable member from the PA who wanted to speak about Knoflokskraal. I would like to remind the honorable member about the oath that he took to uphold and be faithful to the Republic and respect all laws of the Republic. Knoflokskraal and the 41 million rand that was spent there was spent on social facilitation and attempting to secure that property from the unlawful invasion which it has been subjected to since 2020. And we will ensure that, and I'm thank you for supporting the budget, because the budget is going to be used to ensure that no individual is allowed to unlawfully occupy state-owned land and unable to unlawfully occupy state-owned buildings. And what has gone on there is a terrible, terrible thing. And we must ensure that we understand who is there out of desperation and who is there unlawfully so that they can go through the social facilitation process at the end. With regards to the EFF, I see that they had a book on astrology in the back. When they said that we're going to take over the department, I'd like to suggest that they aren't reading the stars correctly.
Can you please take Honorable van Wyk?
Chair, can you please raise on a point of privilege? The Honorable Minister is repeating again what he said indirectly in a press conference that there's terrible things happening there. If there's terrible things happening there, calling our people criminals, why don't he come with the operation to go and see if there is criminality happening there? He's calling our people like John van Riebeck has called us criminals. That is what he's doing.
You are not raising a point of order. You can't debate from the floor. Honorable Minister, please continue.
Thank you. You may support unlawful occupation and invasion of land, but we do not. I also see that the EFF's chap had a book of Richard Branson in the back. And that's interesting because Richard Branson's one of the great capitalists of the world. So maybe he took a few tips from there. And in closing, let me just say that the mandate that I follow is simply this: the voters who have sent me here and my party, and we will never back down from executing that mandate and delivering for all South Africans. Thank you so much.
Members are reminded that two debates are scheduled simultaneously for 16:45 today. The Office of the Chief Justice Budget Vote number 27 debate will be held in the Good Hope Chamber, while the Statistics South Africa Vote number 14 debate will take place in Committee Room 46. That concludes the debate and the business of this mini plenary session. The mini plenary will now rise.
Yes, Madam Member.
Recording stopped.
Let's not land now.
Put it in the Chachama building. In vain, building swap.
The building that doesn't make.
Another building,